Hello and welcome to Beef on Ice. I'm your host, Chase Halleck. And this is the pregame show for tonight's battle between the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames. The Battle of Alberta, Round 3. Game 1 of the Battle of Alberta took place back in October. The Oilers won that one 5-2. Recently, the Oilers played back in January against the Flames and also won that one with a score of 5-3. So I think we'd all agree. Let's keep this ride going. Another 5 goals and we'll be good to go against the Flames. I think we can all agree the Calgary Flames are a much different team than they were in January. Let's take a look at the lineups tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. Top line looks like it's going to be Evander Kane with Leon Draisaitl and Kyler Yamamoto. On the second line, you've got Ryan McLeod, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman. On the third line, Ryan Fogle, Derek Ryan, and Devon Shore. Tyler Benson and Kyle Turris will be your 2 other forwards for the night. We've also got on the defensive pairs, Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci. Second pairing, Duncan Keith with potentially even Evan Bouchard. Maybe we'll see Broberg in that position. And Markus Niemelainen and William Lagesson. Starting goaltenders tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, we're expecting to see Mikko Koskinen. As far as I can tell, it is going to be a game-time decision between him and Skinner. So we'll see where that goes from there. Let's get to the starting lineups for your Calgary Flames tonight. Starting lineup will be Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, and Matthew Tkachuk. Second line will be Blake Coleman, Michael Backlund, and Trevor Lewis. Andrew Mangiapane, Adam Rutzik, sliding back into the lineup tonight for his first game back. Tyler Toffoli. And on the fourth line will be Milan Lucic, Sean Monahan, and Dylan Dubé. The Calgary Flames have a very deep lineup, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Defensive pairings will be Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Andersson, Oliver Shillington, Chris Tanev, Nikita Zordov, and Eric Gudbranson. Starting in goal for tonight for the Calgary Flames will be Jacob Markstrom. So we're just looking at a couple of key matchups here tonight. When I first was thinking about this game, the first thing that came to mind is who is Milan Lucic going to have to take on in this game? Because Zach Kassian's still out for now. My thought is, if anybody's going to rustle the feathers of Milan Lucic, it's either going to be Markus Niemelainen if he lands a hit on him, or Evander Kane. Now, we haven't seen Kane drop the gloves against anybody yet, but I think everybody here would probably like to see that fight. On top of that, you still got the rivalry between Matthew Tkachuk and Connor McDavid. Those two always going at each other in the middle of a game, so be on the lookout for those two guys going at it. So, something that's on my mind about the Edmonton Oilers today. After the loss on Sunday, the Edmonton Oilers' number 1 draft pick is now in the top 16. And if the Oilers are looking to move that pick, I think one place that might be a good team to look at is Seattle. So if you look at Chris Driedger's numbers, and I'm looking specifically at Florida, 23 games played, 14 wins, 6 losses. He had a 2.7 goals against average and a save percentage of about .927. Now that is first and foremost probably because of the fact that he's playing in front of what was a good Florida team. If you look at his numbers with Seattle, 17 games played, 14 wins, 5 losses. So he has been playing back up to Philip Grubauer. But you look at the numbers you saw in Florida and you say to yourself, this guy could be a starting goaltender. I think it's fair to say you're looking at a guy who you put solid defense in front of him. This guy could be a starting goaltender. Now, am I saying he's worth a first-round pick? No, definitely not. That's just me. Maybe Seattle thinks differently. Maybe Edmonton thinks differently. Maybe Ken Holland is not even thinking about a goaltender. We don't know what's in Ken Holland's mind right now. All I'm saying is there are options out there, and with Seattle being in the bottom of the league and being the team that they are, being the expansion team that they are, I think a top 16, potentially top 20 draft pick from the Edmonton Oilers would suit them nicely for what they're looking to accomplish. This is just some idea I had. If anybody out there has something better as far as how the Oilers could acquire a goaltender before the trade deadline. Because let's face it, being in this position right now gives the Oilers leverage. Being below the playoff mark gives them leverage. More so towards the Pacific Division, because the Pacific Division has to make the argument to say, hey, if we're betting on the Oilers to maintain below the top 16, we're saying we can beat them. Whereas I think most of the Eastern Conference, and for the most part the Central Division, are looking at the Oilers and saying, yeah, they're still a playoff team. They don't have to play us as often, so they can make that judgment pretty easily. So trying to sell our first round pick as a top 16 to anybody in the East, kind of a hard sell right now. But to the Pacific Division, specifically the Seattle Kraken, the Anaheim Ducks, take your pick, Phoenix. This is where Ken Holland's attention needs to be at right now, if that's what he's looking at doing. I know he's made it known up until this point that that pick is not necessarily on the table. Eventually, you have to make a decision. And now you have leverage. I know it seems weird, but being below the playoff mark gives you leverage with that first round pick. And all you have to ask Seattle is, do you think you can beat us going into the rest of the season? If the answer is yes, then that pick is arguably more likely going to be a top 16 pick. So it all depends on what Seattle wants for that pick. My guess is, hopefully, Drieger. I don't think you're going to get Grubauer, but, one can hope, right? As for the current state of affairs with our goaltending, if I'm the coach right now, I'm saying Koskinen, specifically for the Battle of Alberta. Listen, this is a team that we've beaten before. We know their playbook. Yes, they're a better team now, but they too lost to Montreal just recently. And I also think that you go with the hand that's working away from Rogers Place. Well, for whatever reason, Mikko Koskinen doesn't like playing in Edmonton. Maybe it's the hostility of the fans. Maybe he's a road warrior. Whatever the reason, the guy plays better on the road and is arguably the best goaltender in the league on the road. Try to figure that one out. So yes, I do agree that we need to give Skinner the opportunity if we're not shopping around for a goaltender at all. The guy deserves an opportunity. His numbers have been good in the regular season up until now. But as for this game, I think if I'm the coach, I'm putting Koskinen in there just based on the numbers alone. Now it's time for the out-of-town scoreboard. The Florida Panthers are in Buffalo today, taking on the Sabres. That game has just gotten underway. Toronto's in Columbus, taking on the Blue Jackets. The LA Kings are in Boston tonight, taking on the Bruins. Colorado Avalanche are in New York, taking on the Islanders. And, of course, you've got the Battle of Alberta tonight at 7:30. All right, I'd like to close this episode off of Beef on Ice with our predictions for tonight's game. The last two games, the Oilers scored 5 goals on Markstrom. I think it's fair to say that this team at least has a playbook on Calgary. That being said, I honestly see this game going one of two ways. Either it's going to be a blowout for Calgary, or the Oilers are going to keep a tight game against the Flames. I don't see the Oilers getting ahead on the Calgary Flames in this one, especially after watching that Calgary-Colorado game. There is a distinct difference in the intensity that the Calgary Flames are playing at right now. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see them against Montreal, but based on that outing, the Oilers are going to have to show up at the start of this game. If they have an outing like they did the first 5 minutes against Montreal that they had, if they play like that against Calgary, this is a good team. This Calgary Flames team is a good team. You don't make it to the top of the Western Conference like this and, challenging teams like Colorado and not play the first 5 minutes of a game. So first and foremost, that has to happen. If the Oilers manage to get through even the first 10 minutes of this game without getting scored on, I think the odds are in their favor. If they get a quick power play goal, if they get the same, a number of chances that they had against Montreal, if they capitalize on that, okay, we're looking at a good position. So as far as a prediction goes for tonight's game, 4-2, Edmonton. And that fourth goal is definitely going to be an open netter. All right, folks, that is it for the pregame show here on Beef on Ice. I'm your host, Chase Halleck. Enjoy the game, and we will see you after the game. Cheers.